Jojo, what's going on, buddy?
Uh, a whole lot of things. Definitely not feeling good today. But I'm not one of those Bills fans that's walking around with rose-colored glasses. I'll tell you that much.
No, well, I'm glad you showed up to take your lashing today after that beatdown. I got my fellow counterpart Jimmy Fink here, Jets fan, and I see Coach Jobson made it, even though he was kind of unsure after that Giants game if he was going to make another appearance. How you doing, big guy?
It was a big time heavyweight fight, and we were unmatched. That was clear. I mean, like the only stat I didn't look up that Joe brought up last show was the rushing yards, and they absolutely destroyed us. They exposed the linebackers. Their offensive line was so good they were able to control Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, and then with the RPOs and the quarterback reads, that really put the pressure on Jalen Smith and this no-name Davis guy that we just picked up 3 weeks ago. It was completely outmatched. Not even the Giants aren't even in the same league as the Eagles. So it was a definite wake-up call. But we're going in the right direction. We got a great coach, a great GM. They got to sign some players and bring them back and keep rebuilding.
Right, you're probably the only person to describe that as a heavyweight match. I'm not sure how many people would describe the Giants as a
Yeah,
heavyweight after watching that
it was
game.
maybe like the original UFC when there was like no weight classes,
Right, exactly. I'll,
except the little guy won.
I'll preface my involvement with with speaking for all Jet fans and say that we understand and recognize that our team stinks and haven't been in the playoffs for 12 years, but nothing makes us Jet fans happier than watching what transpired this weekend between the Bills and the New Jersey Giants. I mean, just an absolute bloodbath for both teams. So Jet fans are sitting here happy, and you guys will be joining us on the beach. Just took a couple extra weeks to get there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we can give you something to be happy about and be of a public service. And that's the thing of the NFL is at the end of the day, out of the four teams left, three of them are about to be disappointed in due time.
Right. Yeah, you can always take this as a moral victory if you want, but I don't think being a Super Bowl favorite should leave you with any moral
No,
victories.
and I mean, and it was pretty clear. I mean, right from the beginning, just even looking at even before the score was 14-0, how it just seemed that how for whatever reason the team that's across the river from Kentucky had their footing in the snow, and it didn't seem to be affecting them. But the Bills couldn't get a footing. They're given 6 and 7 yards off the receivers and couldn't get any pressure on Joe Burrow. They made the Bengals line look like they had 5 Anthony Munozes out there. And it was not a good thing. And it doesn't feel good right now because it's like, what do we have to do? Everything's on the table. And, the thing I wonder is, are we ever going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl with the current coaching staff we have? And making some changes to player personnel as well. But the coaching part is the hard one because when you're a Bills fan, and I'm sure as you guys as Jets fans understand, and even Jay, when you have a guy come in and they start to turn your organization around that's been bad for so long, people want to go to Buffalo now. You're bringing in guys like Von Miller, and he's a quality human being, but it seems like what he's good at is building a team and not necessarily those in-game coaching decisions that you need when you're playing the other elite teams in the league.
Just a
Right.
typical fan that wants to blame the coaches. A
I
typical
know.
fan that are you kidding me? You're
I said
blaming the
players and
coaches?
coaches. I said players and coaches.
No. Whenever the Bills win, Josh Allen. Whenever the Bills lose, the coaching. That's
Did
so typical.
did I not did
Yep.
I not say that McDermott turned the team around? And so that's why it's hard to say, quote my words, hard to say, because they've been to 3 straight divisional rounds, won an AFC title game. But again, is that are we going to get? Is this like a Marty Schottenheimer thing with the Chargers where it's going to be that you have this possibly generational quarterback, but you could only get so far because the coaches hold you back?
Yeah,
What
look,
happened in 13?
the reality is that the Bills organization put all the chips in the middle of the table for the past 2 years, right? The salary cap, the notion that the salary cap is a myth was true for the Bills for the past 2 years as they made a push. And now the salary cap is going to be a reality for you guys. Things are starting to ratchet up with the salary cap. You guys are going to have some tough decisions to make. You guys didn't capitalize on the past 2 years when you guys pushed your chips to the middle of the table.
And particularly the 13 seconds year. Like this year, like the Bills obviously came out flat. I have a hard time blaming the players based on everything they were through this year. I could understand why maybe people ran out of gas. But the 13 seconds is what's inexcusable. That team was firing on high octane. They were going games without punting. Bill Belichick came into our locker room to congratulate Josh Allen. And then the coaches did blow that one, not the players. You could blame this year on the players. That's fine. But that was the coaches that blew it. That was our chance. We had the full secondary, and it just did not, pan out.
Maybe he's not a generational quarterback, pal. Maybe Burrows
Right,
is, Mahomes is. Maybe Josh Allen isn't a generational quarterback.
Yeah, I saw a lot of comparisons today to another number 17 that never got it done, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
You might have the next Phillip Rivers up in Buffalo because obviously, people could say whatever you want, but your boy Stephon Diggs has had a tantrum after about three or four of the games. It wasn't just this big game that he lost. He's done it earlier in the year. He's doing it again. He cried his way out of Minnesota to wind up in Buffalo. So, all these hugging with Josh Allen and their best friends doesn't quite look like that right now. That guy wants the ball more than 4 times in a divisional game. Otherwise, he's going to be pissed off.
Absolutely.
Have you ever seen a Tom Brady receiver yelling at Brady? No. You've seen Brady yelling at the receivers.
And by
yeah, the way, when you deflate the football so they could catch the ball easier, you don't have anything to really complain about. I'm sorry.
And by the way, that interaction started early in the game. If you remember, the Bengals go down and score first possession, blown coverage to Chase. Buffalo gets the ball back, and Allen had Diggs for 6, had him, stepped up in the pocket and missed him, overthrew him by like 5 yards.
Yeah.
He had him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was like you knew from there that this was good. That was going to be tough sledding all day.
Yeah. And you did say look at the all 22 film. I did see some of that from the Miami game and then read about it from the Bengals game. What teams have been doing against the Bills is putting a corner on him, and then after he goes through his break, the safety sprints over there. And the Bengals did the exact same thing. So that's where I go to the coaching is if the coaches were doing their job, they would have found ways to get Diggs the ball, like how the Bengals put Jamar Chase in the backfield. And I think one of the kids we were watching was like, why is he in the backfield? And Jay said, oh, the coach did something to get the playmaker the ball. Those are the things that Dorsey is not doing. And again, you watch the Chiefs game. Mahomes is limping around. Heroic performance there by Mahomes. It's 4th and short. What do? A creative direct snap to Kelsey. Do you think you're going to see that from Ken Dorsey? I think I would see a Yeti running around in the field before I see Ken Dorsey draw up something like that.
Yeah, but Joe, here's the thing. You reference him as being in that elite level. And look, I think the Bills will always be competitive with Josh Allen behind center, but you would never see a Burrow or Mahomes or Brady in a make it take it at the end of the first half and getting the ball back, put up 3 points in that scenario, in that game. It would never happen. Like Mahomes,
I
Brady,
disagree.
all these guys would get more than 3 points in a make it take it at the end of the first half.
Then why did Cincinnati beat Kansas City last year? They shut down Mahomes. So that's just patently untrue.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I don't know.
The AFC Championship game last year.
I know the AFC Championship game. I don't recall if Burrow had an opportunity at the end of the first half to get points on the board and then get the ball back.
That would have been Mahomes. But I'm just saying, good quarterbacks do get shut down sometimes. It's hard to shut down Brady when he cheats and had all the advantages he did. So you got to kind of take him off the board when you're getting when the feed in your helmet doesn't go off and you're getting information about what's going on. it's kind of hard to compete with that.
Yeah, but I think what we have to look at is, which it'd be nice to look back, is because obviously the game was really hindered a lot on these third down plays too, that were 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and Allen was taking a shot on almost every
Yeah.
single one of those, which led to punts. So I'd like to look back and see, like, were there underneath guys open? Was he not just taking the first down? Because the Bills have kind of live or die by the long ball and scoring quickly and not running the ball. I mean, I look today. James Cook for this year, like I would love to have the guy. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
He had 5 carries in this
Yeah,
game.
he couldn't run. As you saw, like it talked about the Bills players for whatever reason couldn't handle the conditions. James Cook was sliding all over the field.
Coach, you're going to let him get away with this? Now his cleats didn't work
Well,
properly?
it's the player's fault for not being able, because Cincinnati had no problem adapting to the field conditions, but for whatever reason Buffalo couldn't do it.
So Mixon must have had better equipment.
Yeah, or just for whatever reason they could do it. Maybe it is the equipment. Well, there was that one game, I think it was the 1934 game between your Giants and the Bears, where one of them was undefeated and they were losing. They changed their cleats at halftime and then won the game. I forget who it goes back and forth, but go ahead and look that up there. I think it's the 1934 game between the Giants and the Bears. So yes, that is.
You hear all the excuses from these Bills fans. Today I heard from a buddy of mine. Today I heard that that injury 3 weeks ago was emotionally draining to the team, and they could never quite recover.
Yeah,
and that's partly why they lost.
It probably is, and I mean, if you say that's not emotionally draining, you're maybe drowning in your own toxic masculinity over there.
Yeah, but pregame, everybody was saying that having Damar Hamlin in the building and everything was the biggest lift in the world, and they came out so flat. So you can't really have it both ways. It's either draining or he's like should be so motivated you guys could run through a brick wall. But to be down 14-0 with all that emotion is crazy.
So go back to the Four Falls of Buffalo, the ESPN special. Troy Aikman said in the 4th Super Bowl, the Bills were winning at halftime. And Aikman said, I knew we were going to win going into the locker room because the Bills didn't look like a team that was winning. They had no gas left in the tank. And sometimes that just happens. And it just is what it is. And it's not. I
thought that one was because the Bills were out partying when everybody thought it was the Cowboys.
I know they were out partying before the Giants Super Bowl. And I know Jim Kelly was a prolific partier.
I'm not sure if Coach Jobson because he was probably only 10 or 11 years old.
Why can't it be that the Bengals were just better?
That they beat them up? They were.
Why does there have to
be
an excuse?
They might be.
It's not. There's two things could be true at the same time, right? It could be true that the Bengals outplayed the Bills. And then you could say, okay, why did the Bills not look like themselves? Because watching that game.
Wait. Bengals outplayed the Bills, or Bengals are just better than the Bills? They're better at every position that was out there.
They were certainly. Oh, for sure. They were the better team.
Okay.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with that game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. I could not give you a position. I could not tell you.
I could not tell you. Played them. I want it.
They did.
A better team.
But the better team would be the team that's still playing, right?
Nah.
If you're still playing, you're the better team.
On that day, you were potentially, or maybe you're just the better team. It could be both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like Cincinnati's beaten Kansas City 3 straight times. This will be the 4th time. They looked like they were going up and down on the Bills earlier in the year when they were playing, and then they took it to. It's like they won 9 games. They haven't lost since Halloween.
Yeah, I think they're
they're probably just a better team.
I think they're like 12-1 in their past 13 games, or 11-1, something obscene like that. So I mean, it's hard to find a team that's hotter than the Bengals right now.
Yeah, but Joe, like I'm on here all taped and bandaged up.
Yeah.
As a Giants fan, saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team.
Well,
they played better that night. They're the better team, and they proved it.
Yeah, the Bengals probably are the better team.
Okay, I just wanted to hear you say that because you didn't say that at first.
Well, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think it's as obvious as the Eagles and the Giants.
It was very similar game, very similar.
The way it played out, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Bills were never in that game. I mean, let's be honest. The Bills squeaked by Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins the week before too.
Yeah.
So
So
they weren't exactly rolling
and
coming into this
and that's
game.
what I think. I think even though some of the Bills were saying these things, and then listening to like the end of season interviews, you could kind of tell that it came out more in some players than the others, and some of them even used terms like we had no more gas left in the tank. But yeah, that game, I mean, it was 14-7, but it didn't feel like it was 14-7. The Bills are driving at the end of the second half, and I'm like, oh, maybe we got a chance. And then that, because we're going to get the ball back, that drive, as I think Jim brought up, failed.
Holding
So
penalty.
there were these little glimmers of hopes, but it never felt in that game that it was equal. I think we even said when we were watching it, it's a 10-point game, but it sure don't feel like it's a 10-point game.
So you have the
No, never.
classic overreaction following day. So you're saying that the collective opinion for the most part within the Bills community is that McDermott should be at risk because of this, or what's the feeling within the Bills fan?
No.
Okay.
So my initial response when I said when I was angry is I don't know if we could win with these guys. All the coaches should be fired. And the majority of Bills fans I talked to thought I was nuts
Okay.
because they can't get past the idea that McDermott built this team, which he obviously did,
But
along with Dable, of course. A lot of people think that either Leslie Frazier or Dorsey should go. But then again, some people think I'm nuts for saying Dorsey should go because he's getting head coach interviewing jobs. And how would we look if we fired a guy who's going to get a head coaching job? So, the Bills, I think the points of view I've heard are literally all over the place. And, it's hard to say what the right answer is because it's not just the coaches. Like Jay said, there's some definitely the interior of our offensive line is brutal. I mean, Josh is running for his life on every play. Uh,
well,
they're not investing in their offense. They invested all this in this defensive line, and they're going against all you hear all week was how bad the Bengals line was. And this defensive line we invested in. Now we were missing Johnson, probably our best interior lineman, but even be that as it may, the level of pressure we put on them was unexcusable.
Do you think and again, just to rewind on the season, you, coming into the season, Bills are overwhelming favorites, right? They come out week one and absolutely thump the Rams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the pundits on TV are starting to say, this is a potential undefeated season type team. Do you think there was just the drinking of the Kool-Aid within the Bills fans and the community, and this team just might not be that good, and this is the ceiling of this team?
I don't think it is the ceiling because, again, you got to look at what they went through. We signed Von Miller just for a game like this. We literally had our fourth safety out there, and depending on where they felt like putting the D-backs that week, Elam wasn't dressing some games, So again, you look at like the level of injuries that they had, and that way you could say it's no surprise. And the whole Super Bowl favorite thing, I think a lot of people didn't understand what that really means. They were like plus 600. So if you're betting a team that is plus 600 on the money line, you're looking at a 12-point underdog. So really, when you're the Super Bowl favorite, that really meant the Bills had like a 20% chance, to win the Super Bowl. But they are loaded, and they still are a very, very good team. But they do have to make some changes, in my opinion, if they want to beat these elite teams like Kansas City and like Cincinnati.
Right, and I will agree with you on that one point, and I'll let you go, Coach. Sorry, but even Coach will agree with this because the one point you did make, Von Miller did make a major difference on this team, which I hate agreeing with you on. But the Bills ranked fourth in the NFL. I sent this to them with a pressure rate of 35% with 4 or less pass rushers, and since he's been out, they dropped all the way to 27. So that defensive line pretty much is nothing without him.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up like the defending of the OC of Ken Dorsey, because you can't blame the OC, but then also say Josh Allen is MVP generational quarterback. Like generational quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, they would audible and call their own plays. From my understanding, that's what a great NFL quarterback does. So if Ken Dorsey makes a call and Josh Allen doesn't like it, if Josh Allen is truly elite, then he checks out of that call and audibles to a play that he does like.
Right.
Maybe.
We
But
talked
again, if
about
he's
this on
running
one
for
of
his life because there's no offensive line, because you
Well,
spend
is
all these.
that hang
They,
on, hang
they,
on, hang on? Is that the play caller's fault?
no, but the play caller's fault is being vanilla. Like they don't do any like on. I just brought up the thing about like what they did to Travis Kelce, right, on the fourth and short. They
You
don't do
don't
that.
think Patrick Mahomes?
When Dable was the coach, you had Singletary throwing touchdowns to offensive linemen. Josh Allen caught a touchdown from John Brown. They had all sorts of creativity in there that Dorsey shows absolutely zero. I talked about you got to get the ball in Diggs' hands and how they got the ball in Jamar Chase's hands in the
That's right.
backfield, wide receiver screen. He does not do the things that you need to do.
That's fine, but do you don't think Patrick Mahomes checks out of a play and makes the right play call?
I don't think he has to. I think Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy got a lot better play calling where it doesn't necessitate it. And you only have so many audibles to call.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think though we talked about this a couple weeks ago though. Josh Allen seems to, when things aren't going well, he struggles to like turn them around quickly. And I thought this game was like a perfect scenario of that, where it really like 14-0 after what was it, like 6 minutes into the game, wasn't something that was insurmountable in a football game. But they came out, they scored that touchdown, and then since then it would look like lifeless. Like just Jobson says, if he's generational, like he's the leader on the sidelines, getting everyone going, like not getting screamed at by his players, not sitting over there, looking at the tablet. Like get your guys going, dude. Brady,
Usually,
Mahomes, these guys. Like you looked at Mahomes, dude. That game wasn't a sure thing. He wasn't coming out of that game.
usually he does, and again, a lot of the criticism of Josh Allen, in my opinion, is biased. It's people who never thought he'd be good, the same people who said, oh, you can't teach accuracy, this guy's going to be a bum. These are the people who looked so stupid when they said those things that then want to go after him now because, oh, here's my opportunity to be right and not be as wrong. So it's very hard for me to listen to a lot of criticism about Allen because I feel it's people that have a very high bias towards the man, who's not perfect. I think he may have one of the highest ceilings in the NFL, but his floor is lower than Burrow's, if that makes any sense.
But
I think we
but
saw
if you have a team that, as you admitted a minute ago, the offensive line was not holding up, right? And it's not like the Bengals were throwing exotic blitzes at them; they were getting to them with a 3-man rush. You have a defense
and a safety.
the defense that without a 33-year-old edge player, reverts back to a middle of the road defense. You have a play caller that most of the Bills fans think isn't that good. Then this team just isn't that good. There's a ceiling to this team, and we saw it.
Not when they're healthy, and not when they had
the Bengals
Dable
weren't
calling
healthy. They had
the
4 offensive linemen out. The Bengals weren't healthy.
But
nobody's healthy.
But
And not when it's snowing either.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when Dable was there at the end of last year, going back to the 13 seconds, you saw how dangerous the offense could be. And that's the thing. The team is that good.
Sure. Last year they threw the ball down the field. This year they throw the ball down the field, and all the Bills fans say, "Fire the coach! Fire the coach!"
Yeah.
Well, they did a lot more of the short passing too. There was a reason why like Beasley was an All-Pro last year, 2 years ago. So the offense looks completely different.
I do kind of agree though that Dable was a massive loss for this team. And I don't even know if he was in the booth or down on the sidelines, but I hate the coach sitting up in the booth as an offensive coordinator. Like, I'd love him to be down there with his guys, rallying his troops. Like Dable's that kind of guy with the Giants. I know he's the head coach. Was he in the booth last year? I have no idea. Or was he on the sidelines?
I think he was in the booth.
Does anyone know? Okay.
Most
Dorsey
play
usually
callers
is
are
in the booth.
You got to be in the booth.
What do you mean? Andy Reid sitting there with his little thing right there, right on the
But he's
sidelines,
also the
calling the
head
plays.
coach, though.
Right? No, I know that. But you got Byron Leftwich is on the sidelines. There's a bunch of them that
Okay.
are on the sidelines for
He
sure.
was just fired.
Was he fired? Yeah, that's what happens. Tom Brady gets old, you're fired. That's what Jimmy and I were talking about when they brought up Nathaniel Hackett as a potential Jets offensive coordinator. It's very easy to look good as a coordinator when you got Aaron Rodgers in his prime throwing the football.
That's
so,
how you get Adam Gase,
that's
right?
Probably, that's for the post-mortem episode that'll come up later. But I don't know. I think like we've said and kind of beat to death, though, the Bills are in an interesting spot right now. I think coming into this playoffs, we're thinking this could be the year they won, and now kind of leaving is finding out is like this as far as like we could potentially make it without some pretty major changes to some of the key spots on the team.
Yeah. So it's like I said, I still think they're a good team, but do you want to be the Chargers? Who maybe go 12-4, get bounced in the first round, or what have you, or do you does McDermott just need more time? It took Andy Reid a long time to win a Super Bowl.
Right. So are they just becoming easy to game plan against because they're just so pass heavy? Like you said, Diggs is bracketed. All these other guys are bracketed. It's like, well, if they know you're never running the ball, like what do they do? Were they rushing 3 guys, Jimmy? Is that what you said? I mean, they're clearly
sometimes.
Not worried about the run.
Trey Hendrickson was getting to him. They did some corner blitzes that like you saw coming from a mile away, and Josh Allen for some reason didn't see the guy and it was coming to his front side. Yeah. I mean, he had a couple of those plays where they ran some blitzes at him,
and Miami did this. Miami did the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. So they got to figure out a way to run the ball somewhat to kind of take away the threat of this guy just throwing every time.
Yeah, and creative little short passes. I want to see some screens. Where are the slants? And then when you're able to complete those short passes, then it's not a disaster when you can't complete a 30, 40-yard pass downfield.
Right. Well, as big of an egg as Josh Allen laid in this game, there's one guy in New York that laid a bigger egg that we were talking as potential Super Bowl champion leader, Daniel Jones. So, Coach, after that, I think what did he wind up with, about 115 yards in this game?
What did the Jalen Hurts have? 154?
Well, I mean, they were up by Georgia TCU score. I mean, what'd you expect of me? Throw it downfield still? I mean, what?
Hang on. All seriousness, that game was so lopsided. If you switched teams of the quarterback, you think Jalen Hurts would have done much better than Daniel Jones?
No.
No, I don't think the Eagles are making that trade, though.
I'm just saying we don't really know how good Daniel Jones is still. After 5 years, we still don't know how good he is.
Right. Some people were saying he should have played without his contact in. He might have played better.
But we did know how bad the Giants' run defense was.
Yeah, we found that out.
They were exposed.
But I don't know if I could really say that because the Bills' run defense was terrible. Like the Bengals were averaging below 4 yards a carry before the game. And then
let's focus on the Giants' run defense right now. I mean, Coach was amazed when he heard 268 yards rushing.
Well, hang on.
He thought it was a big number.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, you dug in your heels a little bit about that one.
I don't know if it's the Giants' run defense is that bad, or man, Philadelphia's offensive line. Like, are you kidding me? That Kelsey guy, unbelievable what he did to control Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. And by the way, I had no idea that was Travis Kelsey's brother. They don't even look alike.
Yeah, they do a podcast together too. Actually, those are the RPOs were incredible.
Two first-team All-Pros in one family. It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. There really isn't much to talk about with this game. I mean, it was Georgia TCU. I mean, it was just a complete mismatch on every level of the field. I mean, there's not really much to cover except for how are the Giants going to close the gap, seeing what they saw this past weekend. That's really the question.
I agree. Exactly. That was like a wake-up call for us Giants fans. Like, we thought we were close, but after that game, we're not even. They're 3 times better than the Giants. So
So,
I mean,
what's a bigger need for the Giants, wide receiver or linebacker?
oh my God. It'd be nice to get a wide receiver so you could see what Daniel Jones can do, but their linebackers are atrocious.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but
that was bad.
the
I think
defensive line is at a level where it can mask part of that linebacker production. Like you guys need some weapons for Daniel Jones. Like enough is enough. He can't go in and have
I
15
agree.
touchdowns. You guys need some weapons, right? I mean, it's an offensive league. You guys can get away with average to above average linebacker play with your D line. Those guys are good up front.
Yes, I agree. Yes, they need them both. I mean, they got a lot of draft picks, so I'm sure they're going to get some weapons, some linebackers, a corner, interior lineman.
They need a right tackle. I mean, that guy's a liability.
Ah,
I know you got to
come
give him
on,
more time. You got to give him more time.
Andrew Thomas wasn't good
I
when he
know.
was a
I
rookie.
know.
Let me tell you who's good. Holy shit, that San Fran left tackle's good. Huh?
Oh yeah.
He shut down Mike.
Oh yeah.
He shut
Yeah,
down
he's a
Parsons.
James Bradbury looked like he was playing pretty good against the Giants the other night.
Yeah,
Probably wish he was still around.
he had some motivation to him, didn't he?
Yeah, I would say.
And one thing you did call Jay last week was that Boston Scott, the giant killer,
Scored again.
he did.
He
Yeah.
scored again.
Yeah.
Everybody scored.
Did you watch it? Now Thibodeau did get held on one play. Did you see it, Joe, or no?
I did not see that.
Threw his hands
It was a
up.
run play. Yeah, big haul, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And then they spotlighted the next play where they perfectly blocked him. That was great when they showed that on TV. I go, oh, it looks like he wasn't held on that play.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, Jay wanted us to watch Thibodeau the entire game and not actually watch the game and just see if he got held on every play. I imagine that would have been a lot of fun.
Just like keeping your interest in that game was hard enough as it is.
So
yeah,
So we're talking about, like, we're watching the Bills game together, and I bust Joe's balls that he can't talk about the play calling because he's never played called a play before, and they're talking about building a stadium, and Joe wants a dome, right?
Yes.
Because apparently Buffalo's a bad snow team.
Yeah. But I wasn't sure. But I wasn't sure if I could have an opinion on that because I've never built a stadium before. So if I was qualified,
he's
that was a
to
good
talk
one.
about it.
No, that was a good one.
Thank you. Along those lines, I got home and my 11-year-old was like, "What was wrong with it, Daddy? You can never go watch the game with your friends again. You got to watch them at home." I'm like, "Well, why?" She's like, "Whenever you don't watch it at home, something bad happens. 13 seconds, DeMar Hamlin. Now this." She's like, "And the Bengals did snow angels on our field. That's so rude." And that's one thing I will say: an 11-year-old is qualified to talk about is snow angels. But yeah, that was still a pretty bad game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I've said, my basement is quickly becoming the Bills killer for games. It's had two straight years of knockouts. So I can't remember if we watched it 3 years ago. We might have. No, I don't think it was built yet. Yeah. But yeah, they take care of the Bills pretty nicely.
Yeah, and with my superstitions, I'm running out of places I could watch games.
That's funny. All right, well, tough end of the seasons for both of you fellas, but now you get to join us. Join us on vacation.
Yeah.
As Jets fans. All right, what else? Anything else?
I'm out. I'm going to watch my shows. Hunters, Prime Video.
All right, Netflix guy. We'll see you.
Bye.
Yeah, we'll have Jimmy. We'll have you back on when we talk end of season once we get through the Super Bowl and everything, and we'll talk what the Jets are going to do in the off season.
Yeah, I mean,
because obviously we got a lot of decisions.
As I tell all my fellow Jet friends, there are 31 other teams playing for the Super Bowl every year. We play for the off season. We are undefeated in the off season. So you guys can celebrate for one night. If you ever win the Super Bowl, we have like a good solid 4 or 5 month party. Mm-hmm. So, our fun is just starting.
Yeah, a lot of what ifs, and our best what ifs.
It's inevitable. We get the A+ draft grade and the A+ free agency grade, and then that automatically translates to a good 6 or 7 wins. So, nothing ever changes.
For the Bills fans, it's like a roulette wheel of ways to lose. And it was like that was the thing we were talking about also with the Bills fans was it was pretty clear from the beginning, again, a few glimmers of hope that we weren't going to win that game. Is that a better way to lose, or is a messed up way like 13 seconds, Music City Miracle, the Hail Murray, or whatnot? Like what's a worse way to lose? And I'm not sure there's a good answer to that question.
I don't know. I think this is worse. You'd rather be in the game. Like that game was basically unwatchable. I mean, you were here. It wasn't. There was no excitement. I mean, people hyped that up to be like the game of the freaking year.
So I was having this discussion with someone, and we were trying to think of, and I'm not trying to be funny or sarcastic here. Like, name me a worse loss in the NFL that's happened over the past, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years than what the Bills went through yesterday. I mean, it has to be about as bad as it gets. Not from like a last play or, I'm just saying like expectations, you're at home, you have the weather, you have an injured Bengals team. I mean, is there a worse loss that's happened over the past 5, 6 years?
What about it's probably more than 5, 6 years at this point, but I think like one of the worst ones in NFL history was the lead Atlanta blew in the Super Bowl to the Patriots, but that was probably more than 5 or 6 years at this point.
Yeah, so I get that, but that's like the Patriots. Going into that game, we're gonna win. We're favored to win that game, right? You guys are 6-point favorites, Super Bowl favorites at home. A banged up bank. Like there were a lot of things that were swayed to the Bills side. So
it's tough.
If we go further back, I would say the greatest show on turf, losing to New England in that first.
But there was cheating. Or you guys, Joe Namath. I guarantee a win.
I mean, honestly,
they were massive.
One that comes to mind is us going into Foxborough during the playoffs and beating the Patriots that year. I mean, it was like it was similar to that. Like no business. Look, they have Joe Burrow and everything, but the Bills should have taken care of business in that game.
What about the Bengals beating the Chiefs? I don't think anyone gave the Bengals a chance last year. That's possible.
This was almost non-competitive, though.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like that was a great game.
Or you could say the Bengals upsetting the Titans. What were the Titans? 14-2 or something like that. I thought they had a really good.
Yeah, they were solid.
Yeah, they were the number one seed. But you are absolutely right. It is one of the most disappointing, ways to lose.
I would imagine the Cowboys probably have a couple of losses like that somewhere if we really thought hard of where they were supposed to win.
And again, that's why I'm saying everything's on the table, and that when I say maybe McDermott needs to go and other Bills fans tell me I'm crazy, I'm like, no, you are crazy for not thinking about that drastic level of a change being necessary. And maybe it's not, I don't know, but
it's interesting because as Jeff fans, we've been dealing with this for many years now, and putting Adam Gase aside, that doesn't count. That's a throwaway. But we've had numerous iterations of coaching changes over the past 15 years, and for whatever reason, in an offensive league, the Jets can just continue to hire defensive coaches. But the past 2 years, the 4 teams in the conference finals have all been offensive coaches. Like you guys you guys have a defensive coach. The Jets have a defensive coach. Like that's the only thing that starts to come to mind. Like, do you need to have the offensive coach running the show?
So to be fair to Dorsey, that poor guy's on an island because he's not getting any help from McDermott. Like, let's say we brought in Eric Bieniemy, for example, and then you lose your OC. It's like, okay, we got Bieniemy as our head coach. He's going to groom the new OC. We'll be fine. So there's that.
Yeah, but I'll do you one better. Like, what if Sean Payton says, "Hey, I'm interested in coaching Buffalo"?
Well, he was a special teams coach.
Yeah, but I mean, he's coached with Breeze, and I mean, he was pretty offensive minded. Yeah, that team scored a ton of points.
How many Super Bowls? How many Super Bowls did they win?
Well, they won one at least. I know that. You guys would take one.
Oh yeah, that's like
I'm sure you guys would take one.
I just want one before I die. That's all I want.
Right, but I'm saying, like, would you make that trade of McDermott?
You never know. Mike McCarthy might shake loose after that performance the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not taking
That's a
him.
hard
Yeah,
pass on McCarthy. I think there's only a few guys I would want instead of McDermott, and that's the hard thing too. Let's say you fire McDermott, you have Bieniemy come in, and maybe he's just like, nah, I'll just wait my time until Andy Reid retires and take over in Kansas City where I'm comfortable. So that's the whole thing. You could end up far worse than McDermott. I mean, even for what it is, and I say that maybe he needs to go. I mean, he's probably he's got to be a top 10 coach in the league, I would think.
What would energize the
I don't.
fan base more than bringing back Frank Reich?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a little, maybe some Rex Ryan bring him back for the Bills or
Oh, the
Jets.
Jet fans. I know Jet fans. They've been clamoring to bring back Rex Ryan. It's like, guys, come on, enough already, enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No
same.
retreads.
we did make a couple AFC titles though.
With yeah, but
That
he
would
did
be
that
nice.
with Mangini's team. Man, that team was built to
Yeah.
win, and then they fired Mangini after making the playoffs for no reason, and then Rex took it over, and they limped into the playoffs. As a matter of fact, the first year he declared them dead, and before the season was over, and they made the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Just the level of undiscipline on Rex Ryan teams.
Yeah.
The level of like 12 men on the field, all the unsportsmanlike your teams get. He is entertaining, that's for sure. But yeah, Bills fans don't want Rex Ryan either.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to move on McDermott this year, but I would say next year is certainly going to be an important year for him to advance past this current round that they're at now.
So
Otherwise, they're definitely going to see the hot seat.
So I was listening to his press conference, and they asked him about the coordinators, and he said it's too early to talk about that, which means maybe there is a change coming. Because you would think if he was steadfast, he would have, maybe given some level of support. But again, McDermott and as many NFL coaches like to be very cryptic and vague in their answers. So
Yeah, but he
who
hinted
knows?
that they've only been their first year. They need a little more time. It's tough to make changes like that and not learn from your mistakes. But
Dorsey,
I think
yes.
Jimmy says this a lot. He doesn't buy much into press conferences at all.
But
So
so you give him another opportunity, and you can understand the frustration. But again, it goes back to Ken Dorsey didn't lead the league in turnovers, right? I mean, so there's equal blame to go around. From Josh Allen had some great play. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big Josh Allen fan, but he had some regression this year.
Yeah.
I think we can all sit back and admit he regressed a little bit this year. Maybe
Yeah.
that's stable. Maybe that's the play calling of Ken Dorsey. Maybe that's just his own play. I don't know, but
the personnel, I think just as big of a problem with Dorsey may have been the personnel, the lack of a slot receiver. I think they had big plans for Jamison Crowder. I think they thought McKenzie was going to be a little better than he turned out to be because he went off in camp. And he did have that really good game against New England as well. But that's another thing the Bills kind of did. I think they put all this faith in McKenzie based on one good game against New England. They put a lot of faith in Gabe Davis because of some scattered games and then a record-setting game against the Chiefs. And then that's where you start to see what we call sugar high Josh, where he's trying to play hero ball, making up for maybe other shortcomings, and that's the thing that's absolutely the point you make about Josh Allen is he's got this ceiling that's so high, but his floor is pretty low, as we saw against Cincinnati and to a certain extent against Miami as well.
But, I mean, are we also potentially just entering the era of like Patrick Ewing and the Knicks, like having to play against the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan? Like the Bills, like in another era, might just be a dominant team, but they're playing the Bengals with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes like every year. Like look at the Giants. Like they were not a good football team and made it to the second round. Like, look at the teams that were playing in the 2nd round of the AFC. Up and coming, Trevor Lawrence and ETN, and 3 just dominant teams.
I mean,
in the
that's
AFC.
Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning dealt with it for his entire career until he finally broke through. But he had to stare.
I know, but Joe was going to say
Yeah,
that
he had Brady, and then he had a little Big Ben show up here and there. But
And then you also look at when you bring up Peyton Manning, the second one was not really that Denver team won because of the defense.
Right.
So it's kind of like when you don't really
Yeah.
give Josh the help he needs, I don't think that does anybody any good.
But that's why I brought up the Rivers. I know it was a joke, but like Rivers couldn't beat any of those guys. So like, is Josh Allen going to get over the hump of Mahomes or Burrow, or is his whole career going to be I can't beat these guys?
I think he's a better player than Phillip Rivers. I think he's more going to, or like a Drew Brees that wins one, or an Aaron Rodgers that wins one. And who knows? So much is left to be said. But yeah, these other guys are so good. I was looking at Joe Burrow's college numbers. His senior year, he threw like 60 touchdown passes and had like a 77 or 78 completion percentage. Like that is insane.
Yeah, he had Justin Jefferson, he had
and
Chase, he had
Edwards-Helaire.
He had Thaddeus Moss was his tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the greatest, probably the greatest year of any college player ever, college quarterback.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be interesting to see. And like I wouldn't bet this, but I could see it being a possibility that this was one of those losses that stings the confidence of the team for next year. It's like the old like the Super Bowl loser comes back to next year and their records are typically like a pretty far step down from what they were the prior year. Like they have some tough decisions to make, and it's just I don't know. I think when you lose like they did this past weekend, it's it could be one of these things where it just sort of changes the course going forward.
It could,
yeah.
Which is one reason why I say maybe we need drastic changes like a head coach. But at the same time, if McDermott's weakness is sometimes the in-game management, his strength is the guys seem to tend to say, whether it's game-related stuff or personal things, that he always seems to know the right thing to say and manage those things behind the line. So maybe McDermott is the right guy to keep the team focused, because that is a real problem. At what point does this team lose their confidence?
Right.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to approach it differently and realize you can't drink the Kool-Aid. You can't buy into all that stuff. They know they got an uphill battle now. I think they truly feel cemented as the third best team in the AFC, and like at best entering the year. Like they will not be Super Bowl favorites next year.
No, they shouldn't be
for sure.
And are they now? Because Cincinnati, the other thing Cincinnati had, so Buffalo's running out of gas. Cincinnati's the team with the chip on their shoulder. Why are we a 6-point favorite? How did we end up in this situation where we could have been on the road with a coin flip, right, against the So how you're going to talk about how bad our offensive line is. So maybe there is something about having their chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, you saw
that's worth something.
You saw that when I was watching the game, and the player from the Bengals who was the most vocal about the whole coin flip was Joe Mixon, and you saw he was playing with a little edge to him.
Yes.
He was finishing every time he got the ball. I mean, he had something cooking off of that whole thing.
He did, and he had a rough year too. So yeah,
that was incredible because the Bills line was the Bills -6, and now the Cincinnati's at Kansas City, and I think it's a 1-point spread.
Okay,
like it's just crazy. Like they took that much from this game, that they think Buffalo was that much better than Kansas City, a 5-point difference.
Well, that's the uncertainty around Mahomes. I mean, he has a high ankle sprain, which is, I mean.
But do you think it's going to go up to 6? Like they think the Bills are that much better, even 3 points better?
Vegas, for whatever reason, loved the Bills this year. Even when later in the year, when the weaknesses or shortcomings started to become more apparent to people, Vegas never wavered, on the Bills. When, as I showed you, like I took Cincinnati and 49ers to go to the Super Bowl a month ago, because I thought those were the two.
I was like hedging.
I thought those were the teams that were playing the best, and I don't really bet, but I never bet on my team for sure.
Well, it's like a win-win. If the Bills win, you're happy.
Yeah, I just looked it up. The Bills were 8-9-1 against the spread this year. So 500.
Yeah, they were one of the worst teams. That's just, yeah, they weren't.
Yeah,
great.
Vegas loved them for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That was good convo tonight. So I don't know. We'll see what happens this week. Who you guys picking for the going to the Super Bowl? Or do you not care now because the Bills?
I care. I think the Bengals are better than the Chiefs. I was all high on the 49ers until I saw the Eagles, what they did to the Giants. But I'm still going to have to go with my pick from last month and say Bengals, 49ers.
I'm going to go with I think that it's going to be interesting if Joe Burrow goes in there in back-to-back years and beats Mahomes in Kansas City. And I think on paper they're the better team, and the uncertainty around the high ankle sprain, I would have to take the Bengals in that spot, assuming if they get a little bit healthy on the offensive line, they get one or two of the guys back. I don't know what the status is. On the NFC side, I just don't see Brock Purdy going into Philadelphia and pulling this off. I think the 49ers team is great. Their defense is, as good as anyone. They're extremely fast, flying to the ball. Can Brock Purdy go into that atmosphere and win an NFC Championship game? He didn't play. I mean, he played okay this weekend at home. I mean, he did a couple of good things, but this is a different thing going into Philly and beating that team.
He came back down to earth, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where people are like, "Well, if they win, Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy. Do they play Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl or even this week?" And so it's like
incredible.
I don't know. I think they're losing some belief in him. They played a real defense against the Cowboys, but going on the road against the Eagles with that D line and the pressure they're going to give Brock Purdy, I don't know. I don't see how he does it, but it would be some story if he does.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Eagles take there. I mean, they just looked incredible. It's hard to deny that. Like, Jalen Hurts off a week off of rest came in and just destroyed the Giants. But their defense looked incredible too. I mean, the Giants couldn't do anything. So I think Purdy's going to have to put up 24, 27 points to have a shot, and I just don't see it happening in an NFC Championship after 6 games of playing in the NFL. We could be wrong. I'd actually be kind of happy with either team on the NFC side just being in there. I think it's a cool representation, the Niners or the Eagles, but I think the Eagles are going to win. And then I'm sticking with Kansas City. I just think Mahomes is, if he's healthy enough, he's got a chip on his shoulder to beat those Bengals after they took him out last year. So I'm going to go Kansas City, Philadelphia.
So we got 3 different combinations here. We'll have a winner.
Yeah, we'll see who it is. But this was fun. So we, I don't know. We'll see. We'll get back on next week after the games, and I guess see who was right. Appreciate you coming on.
And then I'm going to go into my draft lab and start scouting prospects for the Jets draft, and then also talk about their upcoming quarterback decision, which is going to be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, we should have some more information post Super Bowl, which will make it fun to talk about what the
unless you go for Derek Carr
in the offseason. Yeah, that's true. So, well, we'll see.
All right, boys.
Thank you for listening to Rivals Sports Pod. Please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also email us at rivalsportspod@gmail.com with any topics, ideas, or questions.